Hello again, mortals. I'm back. It's been a little while. I've been busy with my university degree and also doing some research, so I haven't had much time to make any videos like this, but hopefully it should pick up again soonish after I finish all my assessments. Now, I've been trying to think of something I could use for a good sermon. I was originally thinking about going over the armor of God, but then I thought of something which is a really good way to rip apart Christianity. Trinitarianism. Now, for those who don't follow Christian theology too much, which probably isn't many of you, Trinitarianism is the concept that God is composed of three beings: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. At least, that's the simple version of it. It gets a bit more self-contradictory when you get into the specific details that relate to Trinitarianism. The first point about Trinitarianism that most people hear is that Jesus is God, the Father is God, and the Holy Spirit is God. That means the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are all, together, God. This is the whole God in three parts theology that we all hear about. You'll hear this supported by a number of verses, such as Deuteronomy 6:4, which states, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." Or John 30, which states, "Jesus said, I and the Father are one." So we've established that God is composed of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. However, Trinitarianism also has the pesky problem that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are also identified as distinct persons. For instance, the Bible states that the Father sent the Son into the world in John 3:16. The Son then returned to the Father in John 16:10, after which the Father and the Son sent the Holy Spirit into the world. You also have the instance where the Father speaks to Jesus after his baptism in Mark 1:10-11. Now, looking at those verses, you could argue that God is formed of three separate parts, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. However, this is excluded in a theological field known as Perichoresis. One quote regarding to Perichoresis comes from Hilary of Poitiers, which states that one of the members of a Trinity reciprocally contains one another, so that one permanently envelops and is permanently enveloped by the other whom he yet envelops. In short, this rejects the idea that God has parts, but is rather one single, simple being. I'm not going to go into the details of perichoresis, but for those who are interested, it draws a lot of its biblical basis from the chapters of John 14-17. Now this leads to a state where the Father is not the Son, who is not the Holy Spirit, who is not the Father. However, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit are all God, who is not made of composite parts. This is shown rather simply by an image called the shield of the Trinity. Now this is where we get to have some fun with some simple algebra and a mathematical law known as the law of identity. Now, let's state that God equals A, and that the Father equals B, the Son equals C, and the Holy Spirit equals D. Now, from this, we can state that A equals B, A equals C, and A equals D. We can also state that B does not equal C, B does not equal D, and D does not equal C. However, the law of identity states that if two things are equal, then they are the same. For example, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Now, anybody who is vaguely familiar with algebra will know the concept of substitution. If we have a statement which says that A equals B, and then we have an equation which involves B, we can replace B with A. Now we know that the Father is God, not merely a part of God, but is God. So we have on our equation that the Father equals God. We also have that the Son equals God. Here, you could substitute the Father for God and say that the God equals the Son. You could also substitute the Son for God and say that the Father equals God. You could substitute both of them and say that the God equals God. However, we also have the statement that the Father does not equal the Son. So in our equation, we can state that God equals the Father and that God equals the Son. However, we also state that the Father does not equal the Son. We can then substitute the Father for God, saying that God does not equal the Son. Likewise, you could substitute the Son for God and say that the Father does not equal God. Lastly, you could substitute both and say that God does not equal God. You can see this in written form on the article on Trinity in the Rational Wiki. Unfortunately, you don't hear of this part of Trinitarianism talked about too much in churches or youth groups or other Christian gatherings. Well, thank you for watching my video. I shall put links to all of the verses and concepts I talked about in the description below. And again, thank you for watching and have a nice day. So remember kids, think hard and stay rational.